Hello, welcome back to Detonator. This is BioEnchanted, and today we'll be going through maps, buildings 3 and 4. Building 5 is going to take a bit longer though, because I haven't solved it yet. There's 5 levels to it, and they're very difficult. We've only solved one of them so far. So that one will need a bit of time. So for now, let's see how the escalation goes with these turns, with these dynamites.
Game start.
So this is where things start getting a bit trickier because the turns are very tight, or sometimes you have what seems like plenty of turns, but then you end up with less dynamite than you thought you did, or you end up using more than you anticipated. So it can be quite tricky to predict in that way. So this game actually gets quite difficult quite quickly. The fact that it's quite short doesn't say anything about its actual difficulty, which I quite like. It gives it an interesting challenge, because it means you can't just kind of like pick it up, sleepwalk through it, and just throw it away in like 5 minutes. You kind of have to think about it, so it's quite engaging. And really, some of these levels are a bit easier than others. Like sometimes I had trouble with like an early level, and then I'll realise that a late level show up, I end up kind of figuring it out pretty quickly, because there are certain shapes that come up where certain pieces can only be placed there in a way that makes sense anyway. But yeah, here's where you're going to start seeing me messing up the puzzles and trying other things. Of course, for the final building, I'll know what the solutions are, because by that point, because what I'll do for the final building of each set, at the very least of that one anyway, is I'll record me playing through it first and kind of figuring out the puzzles in my own time. And then once I know the solutions and have them all recorded, I'll use a piece of paper to write, and some square paper or something like that, to write down the solutions. And that way I can just kind of copy them across and just kind of do them on the video, and not have a video take like 2 hours. But yeah, as you can see in this particular thing, for example, the bottom left, you can only really put a an L shape there, because that's the only thing that really makes sense. I mean, other things will probably work as well, but the L shape's a sufficient way of dealing with that. And sometimes you get a bit of a thing like that shape where it's quite obvious at the start the best way of doing that one. I do like that the game's not afraid to get difficult though. It shows a lot of confidence in the type of game it's trying to be. Yeah, problem here of course is we have an extra turn, but we wouldn't have we would have completely run out of dynamite. So that wasn't going to work. Getting closer though. It's not quite there yet. Of course. But yeah, you can also restart before the game actually fails you, which I quite like. Because it means you don't have to go through the whole like, oh, do you want to retry? You can just immediately try again, and it'll also let you just do it. So that's a nice little bit of strat, I guess, to kind of speed things up a little bit and not have to sit through the "oh, you failed, you want to try again" message every time. Yeah, that wasn't going to work, because the sandwich mode thing only works vertically. But of course, this is finally how we deal with it. Sometimes you just have that one extra square to do.
Next.
But But yeah, often you just have to kind of try and start off by putting the bread there for the sandwich so that you can start doing sandwich mode. But then sometimes that can always trap you a little bit, because sometimes you're trying too hard to form the upper or lowermost layer, and it's kind of wasting them out without you realising it. So sometimes you have to be a little bit more careful about how you're dealing with it. As you can see, this is one of the easier ones where you can easily just kind of slightly brute force it.
Your mission is clear.
There's the third building of the standard blocks.
Counting down. 3, 2, 1.
So next week I will be taking a bit of a break because of course I'll be with my family for Christmas. But of course after Christmas I'll be back at it with Tearaway Unfolded and things like that. And then next month when I get a bit of a windfall at work, I'm planning on using that to get a new computer so I can record more consistently without video glitches and stuff. And also new microphones so that I can sound better before continuing Forspoken. So that's going to be the plan for the next few months.
Good.
So let's do the little scoreboard.
Good. Excellent.
And now we just need to do the final building of this video. It looked like as well that even the first building was relatively easy, because even though it was 5 layers, it was 5 really small layers, and now these layers are getting bigger and bigger and more complicated. So it's getting harder to figure out where to place certain things. It actually would ironically somewhat make the game easier if they give you limited numbers of each thing for each puzzle, because that would mean there were much more rigid solutions and fewer permutations of the different blocks. But because it gives you infinite of every block, at least at this point, it makes it quite difficult to figure out sometimes where they want you to even start. And that's quite fun, really. That's why I really enjoy this game, because it really makes you kind of think about where you need to even start with some of these puzzles. But yeah, that little visual glitch is why I'm going to be getting a new computer, because I believe this is because my computer's getting old now, so even stitching 2 videos together, like I did here, because of course I had 1 video for each of these little buildings, it seems like it can't quite handle that properly either. Which is not much good really for editing. I want to do some more complicated types of editing next year with more interesting different types of videos beyond just Let's Play videos that would require heavy editing, so having a new computer that can actually handle that kind of workload will be very helpful for me. I kind of want to do deep dives into the themes and characterization of the TV show based on the Jim Carrey movie The Mask, and also of the clues as well, that sort of thing. I kind of want to do deep dives into those, but for that I need to stitch a lot of clips together. And for that, this computer glitching the way it is would not be good enough for that. The symmetrical puzzles, they're pretty cool. Especially how they kind of often bisect themselves. I like this particular music track as well, it's very funky. But as you can see, this is one of the, as I mentioned, surprisingly easier levels because there's only really so much you can do with it. And because it's symmetrical, you just need to kind of repeat what you do on one side with the other and it wins.
Next.
Again, sometimes that shape just appears, and it's always nice when it does. But yeah, it's starting to get quite wide, as you can see. And the next one, the next building, has a lot of, like, kind of wide open spaces to work with, so it can be kind of hard to figure out what blocks to put where at times. Hence my solution was going to be recording solutions ahead of time and then just doing the actual video when I know how to actually solve the puzzles. Certainly I could probably just use a walkthrough, but I don't want to do that because that would be the boring way of doing it. I want to be able to figure these puzzles out for myself, even if it means the LP itself takes a little bit longer to complete. So what's the point of me playing the game if I'm not going to actually solve it? Yeah, I've messed myself up there badly.
Try again.
It's always frustrating when you get like to the last thing and realise there's no way out of it. And sometimes it seems like you've got enough turns, and then you realise you've accidentally gone over the dynamite limit and fail anyway, and that's really frustrating. As you can see, I'm forming that little 8x8 again, but let's try and figure out a way around that, shall we? Now we have a different shape to work with. Sometimes when it comes to these kind of puzzles, it's just a matter of figuring out what can I do this time that's different to how I did it last time. And sometimes that's all you really need to figure out is how not to accidentally repeat yourself. Because of course if you stop repeating yourself, you'll start making the same mistakes over and over again. And that is so frustrating. But yeah, it's not the only way out of this one. So it gives you a little rundown of the different like visual block types as well, so you can kind of remember what each thing means, even though it is pretty self-explanatory. Fill the orange things and get rid of all the grey things. A little bit like a Picross, but the whole thing is just orange. Yeah, that's what I realised. I really have nothing I can do there.
Try again.
So let's try and avoid the same mistakes, shall we? It's quite fitting that the music's building up a bit here as well, though. It's always quite fun when you have those kind of like the way the music tracks kind of flow in this game, where sometimes you have the relatively chill bits, and then you have the kind of the bits that kind of get you pumping, and that really kind of gets you in the mood to actually solve the puzzle. It's almost like it's giving you a bit of a confidence boost. I find that quite charming. Yeah, of course, I've seen this pattern before. So yeah, because I've seen that pattern before, I know it's unsolvable at that point.
Try again.
But yeah, as you can see, this game is getting a lot harder. At the very least, I'm not very good at it. But this is why, of course, that each puzzle type's 5th building will be its own video. Because you can see, that's kind of necessary right now. But of course, I'm also going in a different direction here, trying to start from the bottom, so that I can avoid making the same mistake I did before, and ending up with that weird 8x8 I couldn't do anything with. So here I have quite a lot more room to work to deal with that vertical shaft. Of course, I only have 1 turn left, so again, that's not going to do it. But again, the important thing with these types of puzzles is always to change your tactics and see if you can figure out a different way of working things out, in a different way, maybe a different starting point sometimes, or figuring out a different way of thinking about the situation you're in. But yeah, here I've got a completely different shape there because I use a different type of block there, so that's going to be very helpful. Now it's unexplored territory. And here we go. It's done.
Your mission is clear.
Yes, as you can see, this game is getting a lot harder. But we've now solved that puzzle. This is quite a pretty building as well. I quite like this one. It's visually interesting because it's got different textures to the other one. I always quite like when they give slightly different visual things for different things. For different settings in this case. Because otherwise everything in this game kind of looks very similar. That can be a little bit boring. But it looks like they're both transparency right out those windows. So, that was my last video before Christmas. So, I'll see you next time when I continue with Terraway Unfolded. And hopefully eventually get some better equipment in the next few months. So I'll see you then. Have a good set of holidays, whichever one you celebrate, if any. And I'll see you next time. Also remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Excellent.
Yes, I remembered all of them. Thank you, game. So I'll see you next time for the final building. Goodbye.